The sun was setting over a small village, casting a warm orange glow over the thatched roofs and the bustling town square. The smell of fresh bread wafted from the bakery, making everyone's stomach growl with hunger. In a tiny shop, nestled between the bakery and a flower stall, a young girl named Sophia lived with her grandmother, Mrs. Rose. They were shoemakers, famous in the village for their beautiful and comfortable shoes. Sophia was a gentle soul, with hair as black as the night sky and eyes as bright as the stars. She loved helping her grandmother in the shop, learning the art of shoemaking and listening to her stories. Mrs. Rose was a kind and wise woman, with hands that moved deftly as she stitched and shaped the leather into perfect shoes. She always wore a warm smile and a pair of spectacles perched on the end of her nose. As the day drew to a close, Sophia and Mrs. Rose sat in their shop, surrounded by half-finished shoes and threads of every color. They were working on a special pair, made from the finest red leather, with delicate lace and intricate stitching. "These will be the most beautiful shoes in the village," Mrs. Rose said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Sophia nodded, her fingers moving quickly as she sewed the lace into place. The door to the shop creaked open, and a soft breeze carried the scent of fresh flowers into the room. A woman, dressed in a long, flowing cloak, entered the shop. Her face was pale, and her eyes seemed to hold a deep sadness. "Welcome to our shop," Mrs. Rose said, rising from her seat. "How can we help you?" The woman's eyes fell upon the red shoes, and a faint smile crossed her lips. "I've been searching for shoes like those," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Shoes that will take me on a journey, to a place where my heart can heal." Sophia and Mrs. Rose exchanged a gentle glance. They knew that the red shoes were special, but they didn't know what kind of journey they would take the woman on. As the woman's eyes remained fixed on the shoes, Sophia felt a sense of wonder and curiosity. She leaned forward, her hands still clutching the lace, and asked, "What kind of journey are you going on?" The woman's smile grew, and she said, "A journey to find peace, and to leave my sorrows behind." The room fell silent, as the three women sat there, surrounded by the soft glow of the setting sun. The smell of leather and lace filled the air, and the sound of Sophia's gentle breathing was the only sound. Mrs. Rose nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "We will make you the most beautiful red shoes," she said. "Shoes that will take you on a journey to a place where your heart can heal, and where you can find peace." And with that, the three women began to work together, their hands moving in harmony, as they created the most beautiful red shoes the village had ever seen. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the room was filled with a warm, golden light. Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and the woman worked together, their hands moving in a gentle rhythm. The woman's name was Emily, and as they worked, Sophia and Mrs. Rose learned more about her journey. Emily had been living in a big city, surrounded by noise and crowds, but she felt lost and alone. She longed for a place where she could breathe fresh air, listen to the sound of birds singing, and feel the warmth of the sun on her face. Mrs. Rose nodded, her eyes filled with understanding, as Emily spoke about her dreams. Sophia listened, her heart filled with compassion, as she imagined Emily's journey. As they worked, the sound of laughter and chatter came from outside. The villagers were gathering in the town square, enjoying the cool evening air. Sophia looked up, smiling, as she heard the sound of music drifting from the square. Emily and Mrs. Rose smiled too, and for a moment, they forgot about the shoes and the journey. They forgot about their worries and sorrows. The music was like a gentle breeze, carrying them away to a place of happiness and peace. Mrs. Rose put down her needle and thread, and said, "Let's take a break, and join the villagers in the square." Sophia and Emily nodded, and together, they walked out of the shop, into the warm evening air. The town square was filled with people, laughing and talking. The sound of music came from a group of musicians, playing gentle melodies on their instruments. Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily walked through the crowd, smiling and greeting the villagers. They stopped in front of the musicians, and listened to the music. The sound was like a soft whisper, carrying them away to a place of calm and serenity. Emily closed her eyes, and let the music wash over her. Sophia and Mrs. Rose watched her, their hearts filled with kindness and compassion. As they stood there, a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers through the square. The villagers smiled, and the music seemed to grow softer and more beautiful. As the evening wore on, Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily returned to the shop. They sat down, surrounded by the half-finished shoes, and continued their work. The music from the square still lingered in their minds, and they worked in a peaceful silence. The red shoes began to take shape, with intricate stitching and delicate lace. Sophia and Mrs. Rose worked together, their hands moving in harmony, as they created something beautiful. Emily watched them, her eyes filled with gratitude, as she imagined herself wearing the shoes, and walking on a peaceful journey. The room was filled with a warm, golden light, and the sound of gentle breathing was the only sound. As they worked, the shoes seemed to come alive, filled with the love and kindness of the three women. And as they finished the last stitch, Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily knew that the red shoes were special, and that they would take Emily on a journey to a place of peace and healing. The room was filled with a sense of accomplishment, as Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily admired the finished shoes. They were beautiful, with intricate stitching and delicate lace, shining in the warm, golden light. Emily's eyes sparkled, as she reached out to touch the soft, red leather. "They are perfect," she said, her voice filled with emotion. Sophia and Mrs. Rose smiled, their hearts filled with joy and kindness. They knew that the shoes were more than just a piece of clothing. They were a symbol of hope and new beginnings. As they sat there, surrounded by the quiet of the evening, Emily stood up and slipped on the shoes. They fit perfectly, and she felt a sense of comfort and peace, as if she had been wearing them her whole life. Sophia and Mrs. Rose watched her, as she took a few steps, feeling the soft leather mold to her feet. The sound of her footsteps was gentle, like a whisper, as she walked around the room. The shoes seemed to glow, in the warm light, as if they were filled with an inner radiance. As the evening wore on, the room grew quieter, and the shadows grew longer. Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily sat down, surrounded by the peacefulness of the moment. They didn't need to say anything, as they sat there, enjoying each other's company. The sound of crickets outside, and the occasional hooting of an owl, were the only sounds that broke the silence. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the warmth of the sun, which had set hours ago, still lingered in the room. As the night deepened, Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily slowly stood up and said their goodbyes. Emily thanked them, her eyes filled with gratitude, as she hugged them tightly. Sophia and Mrs. Rose smiled, as they watched her walk out of the shop, into the quiet of the night. The red shoes seemed to glow, in the darkness, as if they were leading her on a path of peace and healing. As they watched her disappear into the night, Sophia and Mrs. Rose sat down, surrounded by the silence of the room. The shop was quiet and still, as if it was holding its breath. The only sound was the gentle ticking of a clock in the corner of the room. Sophia and Mrs. Rose sat there, surrounded by the peacefulness of the moment, as they watched the stars twinkling outside. The night air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sound of crickets, which seemed to be singing a lullaby. As they sat there, they felt their eyelids growing heavy, and their breathing slowing down. The room was filled with a deep, peaceful silence, as if the whole world was asleep. As the night wore on, Sophia and Mrs. Rose slowly drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the quiet of the shop. The stars twinkled outside, and the moon cast a silver glow over the peaceful village. The red shoes, which had been made with love and kindness, had taken Emily on a journey to a place of peace and healing. And as Sophia and Mrs. Rose slept, they knew that Emily was walking on a path of happiness, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the love of the people she had met. The night was filled with a deep, peaceful silence, as if the whole world was at rest. And in the stillness of the night, Sophia, Mrs. Rose, and Emily were filled with a sense of peace and a deep, quiet happiness.